Hey guys, Zuzunatural here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. If you are new, welcome. If you are not new, welcome. I appreciate you being here with me. So I've been checking my comments and I got a lot of questions on crystals. A lot of questions. Some of them I've answered before in previous crystal Q&As, but what I decided what I would just compile a list of the ones that people continuously ask. So like I'll have like 4 or 5 different versions of that same question, and I decided I'm going to do a brand new Q&A, crystal Q&A for 2021, and some of these I've answered before, but I'm going to do it again, and then there's some new ones. So do me a favor, if you're interested in watching the Q&A, go ahead and stay tuned. Also, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Okay, I wrote them down because I didn't want to try to remember them because that wasn't going to go well. So I wrote them down. Look, isn't that cute? It's like a composition of it, but it has plants. So anyway, I'm going to read them off of here so I don't forget anything. And if you have any questions that I don't cover, go ahead and drop them in the comments. So the next time I do a Q&A, I can go ahead and answer them for you as well. So first question, what if the sky gets cloudy at night? Will the moonlight method still work for cleansing and charging crystals? Yes, absolutely, it will still work. So you have to keep in mind that when cleansing crystals, according to the new moon or the full moon, we're talking about energy here. So we're not actually talking about I see the moon, I see the new moon, I see the full moon. The bright light of the moon is shining on me. That's nice and that feels wonderful, and it's good that you can make a visual connection, but that energy is there anyway. So it doesn't matter if you don't see the full moon or the new moon. It doesn't matter if it's not shining right on your porch or your backyard or wherever you choose to put your crystals. It also doesn't matter if you don't even put the crystals outside, okay? So some people say, what if I just put them on my windowsill? Will that be okay? That will be okay. It will be okay. They are getting the energy of the full or new or whatever moon you choose, because it's all about energy. It's all about frequency. So they are getting that. Now, for me personally, I do like to put mine outside. So I'll put them in a little bowl and I'll go ahead and put them out on my balcony. And most of the time I do have a very good view of the moon. And so that is nice, and it does make me feel like, oh, there it is, there it is. And I leave them out there. I'll put them out in the evening and I'll collect them in the morning. So let's say I put them out after dark, once the moon is like doing its thing. I'll put them out maybe 8 p.m. or so. And then I'll collect them in the morning, maybe around 9 or 10. And my crystals are cleansed and charged naturally from the earth elements, or elements, from the elements, right? From the moon. So that's one of my favorite methods. So yes, that's that. So yes, the answer is yes. That was just the long version of yes. Can I use incense to smudge my crystals? Absolutely. You can use incense to smudge your crystals. So here's what I want to say. Do not use any old incense to smudge your crystals, because when smudging your crystals, what's important is the actual herbs, the cleansing herbs. That's what's cleansing your crystal. You have the combination of the cleansing herb and then the smoke. That's what's cleansing the crystal. So you want to make sure you don't have incense from the gas station, right? We don't know what's in those. Those aren't natural incense. So I'll tell you, one of my favorite incense is this one. So I love this incense brand. It's what are they called? Right, I think it's Roshsi. Roshsi. So I have these in frankincense and myrrh, which is my absolute favorite. I use them all. I gotta reorder. Nag champa and sandalwood. I love them. So those are cleansing herbs. Frankincense and myrrh, sandalwood. Those are herbs that are used to cleanse. So essentially, that's what's doing the job. So you don't want to get those incense from the gas station that are made with artificial fillers, fragrances that who knows what the heck is in them. So now you're burning artificial toxins into the air. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want to burn natural incense. And so these are made traditionally hand rolled in India, and they're made with all pure natural ingredients, includes herbs, wood gums, and essential oils, which creates a perfect aura for meditation and relaxation. So that's what you're looking for. You want a natural incense. And so most of the time, those incense that you get from the gas station, or even the incense that you get off the streets from street vendors, they're just not that. So what I find is if I find like an incense that's maybe made by Buddhist monks, because that's one of the things that they do. They make incense and they sell their incense to bring in, proceeds for the monastery. It's a monastery. So, and then also, right, in India, the ashrams, they'll make incense and that brings in proceeds. So you want to purchase incense from, I guess, incense artisans, so to speak. Like there's people that's nothing, that's the only thing they do is make incense. That's what they do. That's their jam. So that's what you want to do. So yes, you can use incense to smudge your crystals. Short answer, yes. Long answer, next up, do crystals work for health and wealth? I'm just going to say yes, right? Because if you watch any of my videos, you'll see how. So I'm just going to keep that simple. Yes, they work for wealth. They work for health. There's thousands and thousands of crystals. You just want to choose the crystal that is going to vibrate at the frequency of what you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for wealth, you're going to want to choose those crystals that are associated with wealth, right? Your aventurine, your citrine, your pyrite, your jade. You'll want to choose those crystals. And then for health, health is very broad, so it just depends on what you mean when you say health. What kind of health? Do you mean peace of mind? Do you mean an actual physical ailment? Do you mean pain? Do you mean grief? So it just depends on what you mean. So what you'll do is a simple Google search will get you what you need. You will plug in what it is that you have. Let's say you're depressed, right? I hope you're not, but let's say you are. You'll plug that in, crystals for depression. It'll give you a quick rundown, and then you can choose the one that speaks to you, and then you do more research on that. Like, for example, lepidolite. Lepidolite is wonderful for depression because it has lithium in it. One of its components is lithium. Lithium is something that they use in antidepressants and meds, for bipolar and for all sorts of issues, ADHD. They use lithium, and so this has natural lithium in it. So it's soothing, it's relaxing, and it might be something you might want to look into if you are depressed or sad or anxious. So yes, crystals do work for health and wealth. Short answer, yes. Long answer, what crystals are best for sleep? Okay, so I have a lot of crystals that I like for sleep, a lot of them. One of my favorites, so I'll give you my top 3 favorites for sleep. So I just showed you lepidolite. This is a really beautiful dark lepidolite. I kind of tend to like the darker lepidolites a little more. Here's a lighter lepidolite. And by the way, I have everything that I'm going to show you available in the shop. There is a 10% off coupon, YouTube Love, in the description that you can use anytime you want at Inner Outer Balance and get 10% off your order. Just saying. So, right, lepidolite is one of my favorites. I will pop lepidolite underneath my pillow, and you have the most serene, tranquil, pleasant sleep because it is just a soothing crystal. It's soothing. So I'll take something like this that's a little flatter, or even like a flat sheet of like a mica lepidolite, pop it under my pillow, particularly if you might have a lot of racing going on in your mind. You know how sometimes you lay down to go to sleep and you've just got this anxiousness because whatever you're thinking about throughout the day or the week. This is just so wonderful for helping to calm your mind. And I'm telling you, just be like, you will be asleep. So lepidolite is one of my absolute favorites for sleep. Next up, I would say selenite. Selenite is also one of my favorites for sleep. So selenite is very soothing and calming as well. And I love it. I love it. And so very often I'll pair the two of these underneath my pillow and get my sleep on. So now selenite is also wonderful because not only is it peaceful, not only is it cleansing, right? But it's wonderful because it helps with the dream recall. So when you wake up and you know how those dreams just go, right? If you just kind of lay there and rub your selenite, right? And just kind of contemplate, very often you'll be able to hold on to a little bit more of that dream. And then if you have a dream journal, you can go ahead and write it down. I'm real serious about my dreams, so I have a dream journal. I write them down because they go, right? They and you're like, where'd the dream go? I don't know. I don't know where the dream went. So selenite is also one of my favorites. And then last but not least, you know I had to say rose quartz. I love rose quartz. Rose quartz is a loving stone. It's compassion. It's wonderful for your emotions and, your heart chakra. So I love rose quartz because you're just going to have a very sweet and pleasant and loving dream with rose quartz. So those are my favorites. Lepidolite, selenite, rose quartz. Those are my favorites for sleep. Now, the question was just what works best for sleep. But that question can be interpreted different ways. So it really depends on what you're trying to do in your sleep. So now if you're not trying to have a peaceful, tranquil sleep, let's say you're trying to astral project. Let's say you're trying to do some sort of dream work where you are making, we won't get into that. We'll just say you're trying to do some astral projection, right? Let's say you're trying to do that. Then you might want to go with a crystal like sodalite. Sodalite. You might want to go with amethyst. So a lot of times people will say amethyst is lovely for sleep and you get peaceful, tranquil dreams. Well, that might be for some. That's not for me. Amethyst is not the one for peaceful, tranquil dreams for me. Amethyst is very racy, very, very racy. It activates that third eye energy and my mind is going. So I don't really have that peaceful sleep. However, I do have astral projection if I choose to, right? Astral travel. You have that with those stones that are vibrating in that kind of throat through crown. You'll get that. Throat through third eye, rather. So you'll have like your sodalite, your lapis lazuli. Those crystals are really, your amethyst. Those are really good if you're trying to do that. What else do we have? Can I use soap to wash my crystals? You can. However, I wouldn't, but you can. So you have to keep in mind that there are so many crystals. And some crystals cannot get wet or should not get wet. And that's for various reasons. There's a Mohs hardness scale, M-O-H, Mohs, S, Mohs hardness scale, which crystals are graded on hardness, and it goes from 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest, which is a diamond, and then 1 being the softest, right? So you have down at the bottom, the 1s and 2s, you have like your micas and your talcs, and even calcite is like a 3. So you have those down at the bottom. And so if you have something that's like 6 or so or lower, you don't really want to get those wet because they can dissolve, they can crack, they can lose their luster if they're like a shinier crystal. Like for example, selenite. Selenite is very soft. I believe it's about a 2.5 or 3 on the Mohs hard scale. And it can dissolve if it's sitting in water long enough. It's not going to dissolve if you just touch it in water, but it'll lose that beautiful luster, right? It will compromise it and it'll crack and shards will come off because it kind of grows like in these layers. So you don't want to wet a lot of crystals. Quartz crystals, so your quartz, your rose quartz, your clear quartz, your amethyst, your citrine, those can get wet. And yes, okay, go ahead, use a little light natural detergent or soap to clean them. But it's not necessary. You don't need to do that. So my favorite way to cleanse a crystal is, if you feel the need to put water on it, I might take a damp cloth and just kind of pat it, like if it's dusty or something, pat it. But if we're talking about actually energetically cleansing it, you're going to want to sage smudge your crystal, right? So smudge your crystal and use the smoke and the herbs to cleanse it. Or you're going to want to use the incense like we talked about earlier and use the smoke and the herbs to cleanse it. Or even you might want to do something like this. So I have my charcoal in here and I'll burn, they're down there, my resin. So my frankincense resin, my myrrh, my copal. I'll make little blends and I'll burn them here, and then you can smudge it right over the smoke coming out of here. So I really wouldn't use soap and water because I just talked about the softer crystals and what might happen, but there's some crystals that you don't want to get wet because it might release toxins. So something like pyrite, right? You don't want that sulfur to be released. So you really have to be careful. So if it's a quartz crystal, yeah, go ahead. If not, it don't. I don't even bother. I don't even bother just because you don't need to. You don't need to. So how do I recharge crystal bracelets and jewelry? Great question. How do I recharge crystal bracelets and jewelry? So I love my crystal bracelets. I love my crystal jewelry. Also my metals. So a very easy way is a selenite bowl. So remember, selenite cleanses and charges, right? It cleanses you and it cleanses crystals. And whatever you put in here, it cleanses and charges. Selenite, that's what it does. So you take your crystal bracelets or your crystal necklace, you put it in, you leave it there. So very often what I'll do is I'll run a quick smudge over these ever so often just to energetically kind of clear and cleanse them. And then I pop them in here at night when I take them off because I don't sleep in my crystal jewelry. Well, I sleep in this piece. But when I shower, I'll take this off and pop it in here and then put it back on later. So you can do that. You can also take your sterling silver or gold or brass or copper or whatever jewelry and pop it in here. Selenite bowl. Perfect. That's how you would cleanse your jewelry. Can I use sage to cleanse and charge with moonlight on the same night? Yes, that's a very simple one. I don't even need to go into that. Yes, you can. That's typically what I do. So I'll sage or smudge first with a sage or an incense. And you don't have to just use a sage smudge, okay? You can use a rosemary smudge. You can use a juniper smudge. You can use a lavender smudge. You can choose any herb that you want. So go ahead, if there's an herb that's calling you, go ahead and look up the properties real quick and see the cleansing properties. They all have cleansing properties. So see if that's the energy that you want to bring forth. So for me, I love rosemary and I love lavender. So I'll smudge with that. Sage is actually one of my least favorite smudges. I use it because it's easier to obtain sometimes and I have it, but it's one of my least favorites. I much prefer like what I showed you with the resins and putting the resins in here with a charcoal. I much prefer that. But yes, I'll very often go ahead and smudge and then I'll pop them out in the full moon or the new moon. Or if it's a crystal that can take that intense direct sun, pop them out in the sun. So all crystals cannot because they will fade over time. So don't leave your crystals out in the sun like that. If I smoke cleanse the crystals, can I use just a normal matchstick? I wouldn't, because the purpose of smudging is to have the cleansing herb and the smoke, right? So not just a plain matchstick with just smoke. You want the cleansing herb to go ahead and you let it release its magical cleansing properties and the smoke to kind of carry that away and out the window, out the door, wherever. So no, I wouldn't use a matchstick, just a matchstick. Can I use ocean water to cleanse crystals? You most certainly can, but going back to what we talked about with water and crystals, make sure it's a crystal that can get wet and it's a crystal that can take the salt. Right? So your quartz crystals, if I go to the beach, I bring my quartz crystals and I run out there in the ocean and I've got my clear quartz and my rose quartz and my amethyst and I just dunk them in the water and have a good time. But I don't do it with anything else. Like I might take another crystal and bury it in the sand at the beach and just let it get charged from the energy of the earth while I'm out relaxing. But quartz crystals are about the only ones I'll do with ocean water. But do your research. If you have a specific crystal that you want to do, go ahead and look to see, is it okay for it to get wet? Number one. So is it a harder crystal? And then can it take salt? Because salt can eat away at your crystals. So just make sure that you have a crystal that can take that method. And there's so many crystals. To go into that is like, we'd be here all day. Can I clean my crystals with rainwater? Same exact thing. Make sure your crystals can get wet. Simple as that. Rainwater is beautiful. Moon water, beautiful. But just make sure that particular crystal can get wet. And then, yes, you can use the rainwater. You can use the moon water to cleanse the crystal. Which sage is the right sage to smudge with? There's no such thing as the right sage to smudge with. So remember I said that you didn't just have to use sage. You can use rosemary, juniper, lavender, cypress. You can use any of those cleansing herbs, lemongrass. You can use any of them. You can use any of the resins, frankincense, myrrh, copal. You can use any of them. So most people use white sage, and that's what this is. This is white sage, but you don't have to. But if you're asking what most people will probably tell you online or what most people are probably using, they're probably using white sage. And like I said, not my actual favorite. But yeah, there's no such thing as which one. There you have so many options and so many choices. That's it. Those are the questions that I received. So, do you have another question? Is there anything that I said that you didn't understand or I need to expand upon? Let me know in the comments, because I always want to make sure that if you guys have questions, that I'm answering them in a way that you understand. Because I know what I'm saying, that doesn't mean that you are getting what I'm saying. Just because I know, if you don't know, it might not make the connection. So let me know if I need to expand upon anything else, and I'll do that. If you have another question, drop it in the comments, and I'll answer that for you in the next Crystal Q&A. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good jazz. Zuzunatural. Peace out.